this tutorial, we're going to be making this. And you can see it's also responsive. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started with the homepage. So you're going to need one extension, and that's Live Server extension. Once you install it, you can go back here, right click, and open with Live Server. So every time I make a change, it will automatically update here. So the first thing we can do here is do the homepage, which is just a basic navigation bar. That nav bar, and inside of that nav bar, we want two divs times two, one for the logo and one for the menu. So I accidentally gave that a class of div, but what I'm going to do is call it container instead and multiply by that too. So now I have two containers on the left and on the right, and so I'm going to Unico for the logo, and I'm just going to type logo here for the CSS class and menu here. Very cool. So you can see this, and you can see that we already have some stylings. So if you open your basic styling, you'll see that I imported pop-ins from Google Fonts, and I set that as the default. Make it format a little bit better. So body, I'm going to do background color black, but I don't want it completely black. I'll just make it slightly darker, but it doesn't really matter. And then, so we named it navbar, so .navbar, display flex, and we want to justify content between, space between. So what this does is it puts all the space in between, and I'm just going to do padding 0 pixels and 20 pixels. And we can't see anything because it's black. Cool, so that's a little too little, so I'm going to do 40 here and for top and bottom, and 50 on left and right. Maybe 60 left and right. Okay, so not too bad. So that's that logo class that I added on previously, right here, and we're going to make this one a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to do .logo. I already did .logo, so font size, and I'm just going to do 2rem. So now we can start working on the menu page. Essentially what we want here is another flex box, and in that flex box we want two divs, so one div to wrap this entire thing and another div to wrap this entire thing. .menu, and inside this we want a menu container, .menu container times two of them. Inside the left menu container, we want, so it doesn't really matter how you want to do the CSS and HTML, but what I'm going to do is do unordered list and call it nav list, and inside the nav list I want an li, and inside the li I want an a, and I'm going to call that nav link, and we want 3 of those, so times 3, and that's not what we wanted. So we want the list element to multiply by 3, and inside of each one of those LIs we want an a tag with the class of navlink. Cool. So I'm just going to Control Alt down to put the other ones, and I'm just going to put these two nowhere. So when we click on them, they don't go anywhere, they don't do anything. So let's do home, and I'm going to do blog here, and then about. Now we can see our menu is popping up here. Now we can do the other menu container, and again, it depends how you want to do this, but I'm just going to put each one with a div, and so 1 div here, 2 div here, 3 div here, and inside each div I'm going to have 1p and so on and so forth. So let's do that right now. So I'm just going to do information as the div name and multiply by 3, and in each one of those I want an h3.title tag. I accidentally messed up here, so I'm just going to hold Alt and click for multiple cursors, and I need to add also a p tag, and I'm just going to call it stuff, because why not? So then here I'm going to do where am I, and here I'm going to do contact, and here I'm going to do follow me. And in this p tag I'll do 123 my address. Here I will do my email. You can see that our HTML is here, looking very good. So that should be most of our HTML. We need one more thing, and that's going to be the exit. So the exit button, which isn't here for some reason, but it should be here. So let's do that right now. Exit, and in here I want to do image. If we go back to our path, you'll see it's assets and exit SVG. So dot slash assets and exit SVG. And now you can see our SVG is right here. Now we can start going on to our CSS, and it's going to be menu styles. And again, similar to the menu up here, we want to select the menu, and we want to display flex direction row, and now you can see that. And I'm just going to make the color white so we can see what we're doing. Awesome. And I don't like the list styling, so I'm just going to make it a global, and I'll do list style none. And now there's no more bullet points there. Awesome. And now we can do menu, and we want the height to be 100 viewport and the width to be 100%, and the background color to be, let's just change it to something other than black. So I'm just going to do black and then make it a little bit darker. Oh, it's not overlapping this, so we can fix that right now. Position fixed and top 0. So what this does is it puts it at the top of 0, and now it's overlapping what we're looking for. I'm going to do justify content space between again, space between. So it puts the space between each of these. And from there, then I want to do align items, and I want it to be in the center of the page, so now we center it. Okay, so now we have a problem because this X is acting as its own div, as its own element, so it's spacing between 3 elements instead of 2. So we can fix that by targeting it, and I think I called it exit, but we'll find out in a bit. So yes, and the way we can do this is position absolute, so it takes it out of the flow of the document, and now you can see it's right here. Cool. And instead of putting it right on top, we'll do top 0, so it's at the well, actually top 20, and then we want right 20 as well. And I forgot to make these pixels, and now you can see it's in the top right there. And that looks a little too close to the edge, so I'm going to do 40, like so. And I don't like these, how they're on the side, so I'm just going to put some padding here. And I don't want any on the top or bottom, and I want like 50 pixels on the left and right. Okay, cool. So not too bad. Obviously, you can tweak these things depending on how you like it. Well, I forgot one thing, and that's going to be the 0, 1, 0, 2, and 0, 3 here. So in each of these, we can click, hold Alt, click, click, and we want to span and call it numbers or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to call this 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 2, whoa, 0, 2, 0, 3. Cool, so now we have 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. And I don't like how the link is blue. So what I'll do is dot A, and this is a global style, so maybe let's just put it up here, and Text decoration, none. So now there's no more underline. Color white. Cool. Okay. So nav link, so home. We need to make these bigger. So we need to make home blog about bigger. So let's select that. Nav link. And color. We already did the color with the global styles. So font size and 2 rem. And it looks a little small. So let's chop it up to 5 rem. That's too big. Let's change it. Awesome. So now we can target the span, which we call numbers, and font size, maybe 1 rem. Maybe 2 rem. 1.5. Great. So it's starting to look a lot like Christmas. Okay, so just for user feedback, let's when they hover a nav link, let's change the color. Let's change the color to like a grayish sort of thing, like that. Awesome. And I don't like how it's a little choppy, so I'll do transition all 2 seconds, ease in out, and copy and paste that in the hover. Very nice. So now we can target the right one and start styling that one. So let's do dot right, dot title to select each of these that we call title. And I'm going to change the color to beige, bespeak. So it's like that, but I want to make it darker, so let's put it a little darker, kind of like that. Awesome. And that sort of looks like that. And I think it's a little bold, so let's make the font size about 24 pixels, or let's just stick with rem units. Awesome. And I think in here it's a little farther from the right than the left is, and again, it's just stylistic choice, but we're not going to focus too much on that. So for each information container, remember that's one of these, we want to add some spacing below it. So dot information, and let's do margin bottom 24 pixels, and now we have that little spacing. Okay, so styling is pretty much done. We just need that menu thing here, and that's pretty straightforward. So if you remember our exit thing, it was right here, so that's all we have to do. I'm just going to do this, but I'm just going to call it background, and I'll do it menu. Awesome. And again, it's acting as its own element, so we can go do dot background, and position absolute, absolute, and now it's right there. Do font size, maybe 10 rem. Maybe it should be a little bit bigger, so 14 rem. Yeah, and now we can do RGBA, color, RGBA, and RGBA. Great. So now we want to put opacity. Let's maybe do 0.1. Okay, and that looks good already. So kind of looks like that. Awesome. And I don't like the font weight here, so I'm just going to do font weight 400 here. And there's one problem here. We can no longer hover over home and our nav links because this is on top of it. So what we can do is add a z-index here of -1, and now put it behind our nav link. Okay, now it's time for the JavaScript. So let's go to our main.js. First thing we want to do in main.js is select our buttons. So our first button is .container, and I'm just going to call it menu btm. Okay. I'll add a class there so we can select that. And I'm going to do document on query selector and select that, so .menu button, and I'm going to put Shift Alt down arrow on this line to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this exit btn. And I forgot what the class was, and it's going to be exit. Okay. Now we want to add an event listener every time we click on the menu button. But before we do that, we have a problem because our menu is now overlaying onto our top other things. So we need to get rid of that. So let's go to .menu, and we want to set its opacity to 0. And this is still a problem because it's still here, we just can't see it, right? You can see when I hover over, it's still here. So we'll need this for later, but I'll do it right now, and we'll just do top negative 100%. And what this does is, if you could see past this header here thing, it's up here. So this is like 100%, and then negative 100%. It's all the way up here. So our menu is up here, and I'll show you what that means. So if I do negative 20% and turn it back on, you'll see that we're negative 20% up here. So if we're at negative 50, it would be up here, and then at negative 100, the bottom is at here. So in this case, negative 20, the bottom is at negative 20%. Let's undo that and change it back. Awesome. And just for usability, I want to make that a cursor so it doesn't look weird, and that's going to be menu button. So .menu button, cursor pointer. And now, awesome. Cool. So now we want to add an event listener on click, arrow function. What do we want to do? Let's just make sure it works. So Control Shift I to bring up the console, and it's registering. So let's create a GSAP timeline. Let T1 equals GSAP dot timeline, and then we can do T1 dot play, and let's just get rid of this. T1 dot verse. Awesome. So basically what we're doing here is we're playing the timeline, and then for the exit button, instead of playing it forward, we're reversing the timeline. But there's nothing in the timeline happening yet, so let's do that right now. So T1.2, dot menu, comma. So right now the opacity in menu is 0. So what we want to do is go to an opacity of 1. I'm going to take it about, let's do 1 second. And remember, top 0, we had top negative 100%. So we want to go to a top of 0. And okay. So now you can see that we have something. So when I refresh the page, it automatically plays. And the reason for this is because it's right here. So what we can do is pass in a parameter here, and we're going to do paused true. This means don't play this at all. It's paused. The animation is paused. So I can refresh this as many times as I want to, but it's no longer going to play until I click on menu. Awesome. So I also want to do the same thing for .exit for the cursor pointer, so just for usability. So we're almost done. We just need to animate these, and in that we can go to index.html. So we want to animate the entire list element instead of the A inside of it. You can if you want to, it depends to you, but I'm just going to do the entire list element. So I'm going to do click here, alt click, class equals nav. And now I want to go here into our main.js and T1 t1.2 and select .nav. And we want the opacity to go to 1. We want the duration to take, whoa, I cannot spell today, about 1 second. And I want to stagger them, 0.1. Awesome. So let's see what that brings us. Nothing so far, and the reason for that is because we haven't changed any of these whatsoever. Now what we need to do is set the previous ones, since we're going to new areas. So let's select these nav elements here, and what I'm going to do is margin top of -10 pixels, 20 pixels, opacity of 0. So now we want to change the margin top, so margin top 0. And let's click on that and see what happens. And now you can see we have that. A time scale. And what this does is it plays at a scale of your duration. So I'm going to make it 1 second in, but on the way back, I want to do t1.timescale. I'm going to make it about 2.5 times faster. You even want it 3 times. And you can notice there's, for some reason it feels a little sluggish, and the reason is when the menu comes down, then these play. So let's take a look at that. When it comes down, these play. So we can fix that. Less than -0.5. So it'll start 0.5 seconds before, and maybe increase the staggered, so after each one. Awesome. And you can see that it plays much faster on the way back. And it still feels a little clunky, so what we can do is add some easing. You can play around with the ease, however you want to do it. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. There's a great GSAP ease visualizer, so just play around with that, and now you have something like that. You have a really cool menu just like that. So I hope that tutorial helped. That's all for this tutorial, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.